theta healing is based on hard science. It's actually based on quantum physics. Don't worry, I'm not a physicist. We're not gonna, have a test about that. But I want to tell you just like 3 or 4 principles of quantum physics that are important to theta healing, because this is why this works. First of all, it's just the pure crux of quantum physics. Scientists realized, and this is a while ago now, we're still catching up to this knowledge. It was like the early 1900s that scientists realized that we're actually not made up of tiny particles of matter. That's what we had thought. Because of Newton and some other great for their time physicists, we thought that the world was made up of little things, right? And then we got microscopes and we could see the little things, but come to find out, we are not beings made up of tiny particles of matter. We are beings that are actually matrices of probabilities. We are a grid of energy, actually only one small part of a grid of energy that is literally recreating itself second by second by second. So what does this mean? Why is it important to us as theta healers? It means that if we're recreating ourselves second by second by second anyway, at any point, we could change ourselves. It would be almost as easy as making the same person, the same Anya, or the same Bogdan, or the same Tara that was a moment ago. We just need to know how to do it, and that's what theta healing does. It lets us specifically say, I want to change this. And then, what do? We witness it. We observe it. This is the next principle that explains why theta healing works. It's called the observer effect. So has anybody ever heard of the 2-slit experiment, it's called? No? It's kinda. It's a scientific experiment that was again done first early 1900s, and it's been repeated many times since then because the result was so startling to scientists. And if you go online, I've actually been trying to understand this for years because I really wanted to understand why theta healing worked. There's all kinds of very, very complicated explanations, and if you're a physicist, you can, maybe explain it to me. But I'm going to give you just the basic what's startling about it. So there's 2 slits, okay, in like a piece of paper, basically. And scientists threw light at these 2 slits. And they found that if there was, if it was just the light going through 2 different slits, the light would act like a particle, okay? It would go through the slits in a certain nice straight way. When they placed photogenic paper at the slits, which is how you would observe a photon, a tiny piece of light, the light changed what it did. It acted like a wave and went through the slits in a different way, and there's all these patterns that it makes that everybody's really startled about if they're a physicist. Why would light, which we don't think of as having consciousness or beliefs or opinions, or be nervous about being watched, right? Why would photons of light change what they did because somebody was observing them? I don't know, but they do, and it's called the observer effect, and it's been studied for decades and decades and decades by scientists because we're still not quite sure exactly what this means. But I know what it means to me. It means theta healing works, and it means I can be healed and other people can be healed. The next little principle of quantum physics which applies to theta healing, and it's called discontinuity, or I bet you guys have heard this little phrase before, a quantum leap. Heard of quantum leap? Like when someone says, oh, well, that was a quantum leap. It means, usually people mean, oh, this is a huge change, which is kind of ironic because a quantum leap in science is a very tiny change. It's the change of an electron from one orbit to another. So it doesn't sound like a big deal. The big deal is that scientists don't understand how it got from one orbit to another, because usually it would sort of orbit around and then go there, and they could see that. A quantum leap is when one instant it's in one orbit, and another instant it's in another orbit, almost like it disappeared and then appeared. This freaks out scientists. They hate it. Even Einstein, they either hate it or I guess some of them love it and are excited about it. Even Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. They can't figure it out. And what it is something that as theta healers we can just accept, and that is, it's a mystery. We can make room for mystery. As you're doing theta healing sessions, it's really a great practice to have a shelf in your mind, a shelf just right over here, and the name on the shelf is, I don't know. How did that work? I don't know. I'm putting on my I don't know shelf. Because if you start having to understand how every tiny thing worked, you're going to interfere with the healing itself. I love to understand stuff, and most stuff in theta healing and in every mind-body healing can be understood empirically, but sometimes we have to have a little shelf. Even Albert Einstein had a little shelf for, it's a mystery, can't explain it right now. So that's important. Another thing that we can think about is downward causation versus upward causation. So let's say that you have a headache and you take a Tylenol. The Tylenol is going to start at the bottom down here with like atoms and interact with the atoms and molecules and cells in your body, and it's going to go up to your brain, and it's going to make your headache feel better. And then above your brain would be what we could call consciousness, right? The universe, awareness. That's how a lot of medicine works. It's called upward causation, and it kind of starts sort of at the bottom of this little pyramid and works its way up. And that's good. I take aspirin sometimes. I've, had surgery sometimes. It's good. Another way to heal is via downward causation. And that's if we start, what was at the top? Consciousness. If you start with consciousness and heal up here, it'll automatically flow down to the brain and the molecules and the cells and the atoms. And then the healing will be, it'll be there, and there are no side effects, and it's a whole lot faster. So this is what we're doing in theta healing, is using downward causation, starting with consciousness and going down. And speaking of consciousness, we always use what can be called unitive consciousness. So that is not just the consciousness of ourselves. If you are a healer that's depending on your own knowledge, your own wisdom, your own energy or strength, that can work, but then it all depends on you. And what if you make a mistake? Or what if you don't know how to treat this form of cancer? Or what, We in theta healing go all the way to the unitive consciousness, which we call source. So our healing is always coming directly from source, and it is always objective, loving, doesn't matter about what our opinions or fears are. The healing is practically ignoring us. We're just being a channel. And that's what we're going to learn this weekend, is how can I be an open channel?